For decades, the US and Canada have stood side by side as steadfast allies, their partnership a model of stability and shared prosperity. But now, that relationship is facing its most serious test yet. Former President Donald Trump has thrown a grenade into cross-border relations, threatening a sweeping 25% tariff on every Canadian product entering the US. The impact? A potential economic earthquake that could rattle both nations and disrupt millions of lives. Ontario's Premier, Doug Ford, wasted no time firing back. His message? If the US slaps on those tariffs, Ontario will hit back where it hurts most by turning off the tap on its massive energy exports that keep American homes and businesses running. Ford's threat to pull the plug on electricity to key US states marks a dramatic escalation. What started as a trade spat has now morphed into a high-stakes battle over critical resources, with the spectre of blackouts and energy shortages looming over American cities. This isn't just political theatre anymore, it's a direct challenge to the economic lifeline that has bound North America together for generations. The livelihoods of workers and the fate of entire industries now hang in the balance. Ford's rhetoric has reached a fever pitch, branding the tariffs as an economic declaration of war. He's made it clear. Ontario won't sit idly by. The province is ready to defend its interests and its people no matter what it takes. The consequences could be massive. Two economies, deeply intertwined with supply chains that crisscross the border daily, now face a tit-for-tat standoff that threatens to spiral out of control. Boardrooms and union halls on both sides are bracing for impact. The fallout could be swift and severe, factories shuttered, shelves emptied, and thousands of jobs lost in the blink of an eye. The stakes couldn't be higher for workers and businesses alike. What began as a trade dispute has now become a battle for power, both figuratively and literally. The risk isn't just short-term disruption, but lasting damage to a partnership that has fueled North American growth for generations. The world is watching as North America's closest neighbours, once united by common goals and economic ties, now stand on the brink of a showdown that could redefine the continent's future. Canada's response to the escalating trade dispute is defined by a striking contrast between two of its most prominent leaders, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Ontario Premier Doug Ford. Trudeau, the face of federal leadership, urges calm and negotiation, advocating for a measured approach in the face of mounting pressure. In stark opposition, Premier Ford, representing Ontario's industrial heartland, is ready for a fight, vowing to stand up forcefully for Canadian interests. Trudeau projects steady confidence, emphasising Canada's vital role as a reliable supplier of minerals and energy to the world. He prefers to resolve the dispute through established diplomatic channels, working closely with allies and international partners. Trudeau's approach is rooted in the belief that dialogue and cooperation will ultimately serve Canada's long-term interests, both economically and politically. Ford, meanwhile, is unapologetically confrontational. He promises immediate and decisive retaliation if tariffs are imposed, rallying supporters with fiery speeches and bold declarations. Ford's rhetoric is designed to reassure workers and industries that their livelihoods will be fiercely defended, no matter the cost. This divergence in leadership styles highlights Canada's internal tensions. Ottawa's cautious, diplomatic approach stands in sharp contrast to Ontario's defiant, action-oriented stance. The split reveals deeper divisions about how best to protect Canadian jobs and sovereignty. Ford's tough talk resonates with workers and industries who fear the brunt of US tariffs, fueling a sense of urgency and resolve. Meanwhile, Trudeau weighs the broader national interest, balancing economic stability with the need to maintain strong international relationships and Canada's reputation on the world stage. The result is a two-pronged Canadian response. One side seeking peaceful resolution through negotiation, the other preparing for an economic battle that could reshape the country's future. This dual strategy reflects the complexity of the moment, as leaders grapple with both immediate threats and long-term consequences. Meanwhile, Mexico's president, observing from the sidelines, calls for calm and strict adherence to existing trade agreements. Yet, his voice is often drowned out by the rising rhetoric and tension between Canada and the US, as the spotlight remains fixed on the northern dispute. As Ford's threats echo across the media and the US readies its tariffs, the voice of moderation struggles to break through the noise. The public is left to wonder which path will ultimately prevail, diplomacy or confrontation. The future of North American trade now hangs in the balance, with unity giving way to discord. The choices made in the coming days will shape not only Canada's economic fate, but also the stability of the entire continent. Ford's threat is both targeted and highly strategic. He's not just making vague statements, but has specifically named Michigan, New York and Minnesota as the first states that would feel the brunt of Ontario's retaliation if trade tensions escalate. These states are deeply reliant on Ontario's electricity exports, and a sudden 25% surcharge or even an outright cut-off would have immediate, far-reaching consequences. Homes could go dark, schools might be forced to close, and factories could grind to a halt, threatening thousands of jobs and disrupting daily life. Ford's message is unmistakable. If Canadian industries are made to suffer by US tariffs, then American consumers will feel the pain too, through skyrocketing utility bills, rolling blackouts, and the looming threat of energy shortages that could ripple through entire communities. He's taken his warning directly to American media, appearing on major networks and vowing to cut the power with a smile if tariffs go forward, making sure the threat is heard not just in Washington, but in living rooms across the border. This is a high-risk gambit. Ford is weaponizing energy, turning a vital resource into a bargaining chip to force Washington's hand, hoping the potential fallout will be too severe for US leaders to ignore. The move shatters decades of cross-border trust, transforming what was once a symbol of cooperation and mutual benefit into a tool of economic warfare, raising tensions to levels not seen in years. The threat doesn't just challenge the reliability of the North American energy market, it sets a dangerous precedent, signaling that future disputes could see essential services used as leverage, with millions caught in the crossfire. Ford frames his actions as a necessary defense of Canadian interests, but the long-term damage to trust and cooperation between the two countries could far outlast any single trade battle, leaving scars that may take years to heal. The stakes now go far beyond economics. They strike at the very foundation of US-Canada relations, threatening the spirit of partnership that has defined the border for generations. The US and Canadian economies are so intertwined that a trade war would inflict pain on both sides. For Canada, a 25% tariff could trigger recession, job losses and inflation, hitting families and industries hard. The US wouldn't escape unscathed. Retaliation could mean higher energy costs, disrupted supply chains and layoffs in states reliant on Canadian trade. There are no winners here, only mutual economic harm. Canada's leverage as a key energy supplier means the pain would be shared, as Alberta's Premier warns. Leaders must weigh the urge to appear tough against the risk of hurting their own citizens. The business community is rattled, with uncertainty stifling investment and threatening long-term growth. The dispute isn't just about tariffs, it's about eroding the trust and predictability that made North America prosperous. Every threat pushes both nations closer to a precipice of lasting economic damage. The foundation of North American trade is at risk, with consequences that could echo for years. As the US and Canada feud, Europe is moving forward, announcing a $20 billion battery plant to anchor its green tech future. Europe's investment signals stability and long-term vision, while North America's infighting creates risk for global investors. The timing is telling. As North America threatens to unravel, Europe positions itself as the destination for major, job-creating investments. The message is clear: capital flows to where there's opportunity and predictability. Trade uncertainty in the US and Canada could drive companies to look elsewhere, costing North America its competitive edge. Europe's move isn't just about one factory, it's about building an entire ecosystem for the industries of tomorrow. While Washington and Ottawa spar, they risk falling behind in the global race for innovation and prosperity. The world is watching, and as North America builds walls, others are building the future. The cost of internal conflict may be missed opportunities that can't be regained. This trade war isn't just headlines, it hits home for ordinary people. Ford warns that a 25% electricity surcharge could raise bills in states like New York and Michigan by $100 a month. American families would feel the squeeze, forced to cut back on essentials as costs rise. Ford frames his actions as reluctant defense, but US citizens would be caught in the crossfire. Canadians would also suffer. Tariffs would drive up prices and threaten thousands of export-dependent jobs. The real victims are families and small businesses, not politicians. Anxiety and uncertainty would ripple through communities on both sides of the border. Economic conflict between allies is never clean. It's messy, painful, and leaves everyone worse off. Ford admits his strategy is risky, even for Ontario. Cutting off US energy sales could hurt Canada's own industry and reputation as a reliable supplier. Still, he frames his stance as a necessary defence of Canadian sovereignty and jobs. Ford argues that inaction would be even more costly, positioning himself as a champion for Canadian workers. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, hoping the threat alone will force the US to back down. But if Washington calls his bluff, both sides could spiral into a destructive cycle of retaliation. Leaders must balance appearing strong with protecting citizens from economic harm. Ford's gamble, the threat of pain, is more effective than inflicting it, but one misstep could trigger a prolonged, damaging trade war. As the dispute escalates, it's clear. There are no easy winners in this economic standoff. The deep integration of the US and Canadian economies means any blow rebounds on both sides. The risk isn't just lost jobs or higher prices, but lasting damage to a partnership built on trust and shared values. A trade war could leave scars and resentment, making future cooperation on critical issues far harder. Meanwhile, Europe's strategic investments show the world won't wait for North America to resolve its disputes. Every day spent fighting is a day lost in the global race for competitiveness. The real cost may be missed opportunities and diminished influence on the world stage. The only way forward is a return to partnership and negotiation. Escalation leads only to mutual destruction. The future of millions depends on leaders choosing cooperation over conflict.